Some of y'all try to detox. I know I did a couple times. Didn't work until Arden Gardens changed my life. Leslie sat me down a few years ago and said, "You're doing it wrong." Any yellow jackets in the house? All right, yellow jackets. She's a Georgia Tech grad. Dad's got a building over there named after him. Did you know that? You don't know that? You didn't know that. No one knew that, right? Didn't know that, right? The Zinn building. You heard of the Zinn building?
Yeah.
That's her dad. Leadership Atlanta, I want you all to give Leslie Zinn, the CEO of Arden Garden, a warm round of applause as we bring her up. Bring her up. Yeah. You keep it going. Yeah, got here, yeah. All right. Keep that going. So, I was just about to say, does anyone recognize that song?
The Juice.
Who is it?
Lizzo.
Lizzo the Joe. The Juice. There you go. That's right. Isn't that? That's the one.
There we go.
So, of course, Leslie, I think first ask the song. Where'd it come from?
Well, my daughter suggested it. That was number one, so you have to go with that. And if you listen to the lyrics, if you know what Lizzo is all about, she's about self-empowerment, be who you are. We're all great just as we are, and you got to blame it on the juice. How can you go wrong?
That's perfect. That is perfect. One of the things we want to talk about this morning is really beyond the bio. Talk about all the nice, great stuff in here. But Leslie and I, we met each other years ago, almost 10 years ago. She was not starting up, she was in the pride of really making some cool things happen. So most recently, a couple weeks ago, we sat down, got a new facility. Tell us about really Arden's Garden. Who was Arden?
My mom.
So, did you all know that?
Yeah.
All right, it's your mom. And the story is fantastic, but if you can talk about how you got to the point where you are today.
Well, if anyone knows my mom, her name's Arden Zinn, and she was an icon in Atlanta way before Arden's Garden. She had exercise studios. Mr. Stein here knows. I've known him since I'm about 2. And so she, always a humongous health nut, fed my brother and I the grossest combinations growing up. And she wanted this juicer called a Norwalk back in 1963. But it cost too much money, it's $1,500, so she said, I'll wait till I have the money. Fast forward 30 years, 1993, she still wants this juicer, only now it costs $2,200. She says, I don't want to go my whole life without this juicer, so she does the all-American thing. She gets out her credit card, she buys the juicer. And she calls all her friends and says, I have this great juicer, I want to make juice for you. And that's how it started.
You think about that, right? I mean, it's the American dream. But we talk about things that looks great, it sounds great, but it really wasn't so great. We had an unorthodox beginning as an entrepreneur. Tell the folks about really your goal. You were going to college, and she's originally from Jersey, but moved down south and became a Southern Belle to some degree. we laugh about that, but talk about it. You had some a little bit of a rough patch.
Oh, my rough patch.
Yeah.
My rough patch. So I grew up in Atlanta. I was born in Jersey, but I grew up in Atlanta, and I went off to college in Boston. And in college, let's say I took a detour, and so right around my junior year, I was pretty much majoring in partying. And my father came up to Boston and said, you can come home to Atlanta and party for free. And I came back to Atlanta, and then I took a little detour to treatment, drug and alcohol treatment. I started off here at Ridgeview. I did a month there, and I did such a great job at Ridgeview that they sent me up to New Jersey for graduate treatment. So I spent almost a year in treatment up in New Jersey, and then I spent an additional 2 years because they said you can't come home to Atlanta and stay sober.
But that was a tough time, but it was also a great time because you were going to come back. You were determined to go back to college.
Right. Like, think my parents were determined I would go back to college. Yeah, so I applied to Georgia Tech, and they gave me an interview, and I mean, I thought I was pretty great. You know, I was 3 years sober. That's fantastic, right? And they basically told me that I needed to go to Georgia Perimeter to get my grades up, because I didn't have very good grades at BU. And I was so insulted. I was like, do you know who my father is? Because he was a tech professor. And they were like, yeah, that's how you got the interview. So I did. I went to Georgia Perimeter for 1 quarter and made good grades. If you're not partying and you're attending class, you can actually do well. And so I went to Tech and graduated from there.
To graduate, folks, round of applause for that. It is not easy getting back on your feet. But you were determined, and you saw your mother really make some strides in her pursuit of her own endeavors. And you wanted to support her. Your brother said, you know, hey, let's do this. And you all got together. Talk about when you were going around to beauty shops. What was taking place today?
So what happened when my mother bought this juicer, she's giving away the juice. She's not motivated by money. My mom's motivated by wellness. So Return to Eden opened at that time, and they heard about her because she lived in the neighborhood. And they said, come to the back of our store, make juice, we'll give you the produce, we'll sell the juice, we'll split the sales. Well, we thought this was just a home run. But it really wasn't, because the juicer was a home juicer. It was a cold press. It took an hour to make a gallon. It was super labor intensive. So she called my brother and I in to help, free labor. Here we are. And so after like 9 months, nobody was getting paid. And so as a last ditch effort, we said, Mom, take this juice into Buckhead, where people have money. This is 1994, and try to sell it. We were bottling in mason jars, writing the names on the tops. And my mom went to, we thought like lawyers' offices or stock brokerage houses where people have money. But my mother does not think like I think, probably you think. And she went to hair salons. And that decision literally turned our entire company around. Because hairstylists are stuck in their stations. They always have cash from tips. They like things that are new and trendy, and they have a different customer in their chair every day.
So you actually began to make more money by going to hair salon.
Yes.
Did anyone ever do that? You ever think about doing that?
No business plans around hair salon delivery?
But you know, that actually helped you to get to another place. There's your first location, I think many people know where that is today. Intersection of Monroe,
Yeah,
right?
and 10th.
And 10th Street.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman who wanted to lease the property to you all, but you didn't have enough money.
So there was a Little Caesar's Pizza that had gone out of business in 1995, and the spot had been open for 9 months. And so the landlord was charging $2,500, which was $1 million to us. We were paying nothing at Return to Eden. And so he was just desperate. He didn't care who we were. And he said, okay, you can have the spot, no security deposit, 30-day out at any point, and just move in. And let's see, 95, 24 years later, we have the same lease.
What?
Not the same rent, but we have the same lease.
No, definitely not. But really, let's see, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. You're in all these states now,
Yeah.
right? You really expanded. She got an SBA loan at one point in time. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And we were so captivated by her story. I just, you know, we stayed in touch and said, how can you actually tell the story to other people to get them inspired? But you did something pretty unique. You got into all these other stores. You start to expand. She manufactures here in Atlanta for us. Considered a minority, women-owned company, unheard of. How'd you get to all these states?
Well, that's a really interesting story. About 2-3 years ago, I got an email that said, hey, give me a call, nothing's wrong. You know, that's like stomach drops, and you're like, oh my gosh, and it was on my phone, so I was like looking up who the email came from, and it was Publix.com, so then my stomach really dropped. And long story short, I called the guy, and I didn't remember him, but he used to be a produce manager here in Atlanta. and we serviced his store, and he remembered us, and he saw us in a different location at Whole Foods, and he said, "Why have you not expanded with us?" I'm like, "I don't know." And so he said, "You guys made a great product, you make a great product, and you gave us great service, and we'd like you to grow with us." And so it's that relationship. Yeah. So you never know when it's going to come back to help you.
And that's the part that I think that many people will resonate, is that you really have to be careful how you treat people. You just never know how you may need them or they may need you in the foreseeable future. But you went through that process. She's a mom of 4 folks. And the first machine that her mother purchased is still in front of the building today.
It could fit on this table right here.
It's pretty huge. But you opened up a new location. You're just down the street from Tyler Perry. We had some time with Tyler Perry yesterday. We had some laughs and told Tyler about Leslie's new operation. And I say that for a reason, because you're in a unique location. Talk about your new location.
So we just opened up a new plant right off 166 on Sylvan Road. We kept our original plant, which is, well, it's not the original, it's one we moved to with our SBA loan. In 2002, we moved to East Point, and we just opened up an 80,000 square foot space on Sylvan.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about
and
that?
We're having the grand opening Monday at 11. Everyone's welcome.
You can clap for that.
Yeah.
So you see this right off of 166. You see this huge warehouse, right? Tell us what's going on inside there.
So we're manufacturing for all of our wholesale accounts in that location, and we're going to be opening a retail store right off the side in the same building. The greatest thing is that Publix came to visit us at that location, and GPS, if you put it in, it's 2181 Sylvan Road. It'll send you to the back of our building. And they called me, and they're like, "We're here, but we don't see where to come in." And I'm like, "It's right in the front." And they said, "No, we see your trucks." And I said, "Oh, you're at the back of the building." And they said, "How do we get to the front?" And I said, "Oh, you can take either street. We have the whole block."
It just seems like when you started your career, you wanted to be a scientist, right? And you were determined to go back and get your degree. You got the degree. Parents are very proud of you. University, of course, your father was well accomplished there. The building is named after him. Can you talk about that for a moment? We have some yellow jackets in the house tonight, right? Or today?
Yeah. So my dad, he graduated from Princeton, and he took his first job at Georgia Tech in 1965. I was 3 months old. So he's had one job his whole life, and that was working in aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech. And about 10 years ago, they honored him with naming a building after him. Yeah, very cool.
And that's the coolest part, is when you get to see, some of the challenges that you were involved in early in your career, and to see him honored in that capacity is something else. Excuse me. But now, you're a mom of 4, right? And your youngest is under 10 years old, right?
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, 8.
Y'all done the math? 65, how old I am, 8.
Folks, it's in the juice, okay?
It is, baby.
It's in the juice. But really, as we begin to come to our closing comments, in all seriousness, we had a great conversation, and Leslie really was talking about, it really is in the juice, in eating healthy, and really taking care of your body. Talk about that, and talk about your products and how it really has been life-changing for a number of people.
So I think growing up the way I grew up, it's just all I knew. It's kind of like, it's what my norm was, but it wasn't normal. And then as I've gotten older, I've become my mom, which is kind of scary in some ways. Like, I drink all the out-of-date juice. What I used to think is what I put in my body affected the way I felt. If I felt guilty because I was going to gain weight. But what I've come to learn is that what I put in my body affects how I feel, like the actual feeling. It's truly how energetic I am, how happy I am, how optimistic. It's really key to being a productive and happy individual. And so we feel that that's not available to a lot of people. So the entire purpose of our company is to make healthy products, convenient and affordable.
You know, you think about something like that, and it's a product right here in our backyard. And we've seen your stores. How many locations do you have now?
We have 16, 17, and 18 are opening in the next 2 weeks. Sylvan and Noonan. So we're super excited about that.
Manufacturing here, Eloise, I know you can appreciate that. You know, right here in Atlanta, she's manufacturing. Most of the time you hear people doing that out of state or out of the country. Talk to us about what was your idea about making sure that you kept things right here at home?
Well, we just grew very incrementally. I don't think it ever crossed our mind to go anywhere else. One of the things that I really love about Atlanta, and I tell this to a lot of people, is I feel that Atlanta is a very forgiving city. You can work hard here and you will attain something. There are other cities that you can work hard in and you may not get anywhere. And so I feel like Atlanta is really the city of opportunity.
It seems like there's been an opportunity really for a long time for you now. You've got some expansion that you're doing. You talk about a new product that you're getting ready to have come out. We had a great conversation about the Impossible Burger. And not to talk about that itself, but Leslie was talking about one of her new products that's coming out that's total vegan. Talk about that.
Well, we're just expanding our line of plant-based foods. Like, you cannot live on juice alone, although it's good. So we're trying to offer more products. We're coming out with a new veggie burger that's going to be completely plant-based, not oil-full, and some really good food offerings that can help people be healthier.
So you started out wanting to be a scientist, and now you're creating food for the rest of us to continue to be healthy, to continue to add to the population for some of us beyond normal years. You've got a patent that, by the way. I don't know what's in that juice. This is something that you really didn't plan. This is, folks, what it means to be beyond the bio. She didn't plan this at all. It just happened. But you followed your passion to some degree, and you stayed with it, right?
Right. I wouldn't say it just happened.
Yeah.
I say that, I watched my mom suit up and show up no matter what. And I've carried that forward. There are times that I want to pull the covers up over my head, and we just don't do that.
Yeah. You talk about that determination as an entrepreneur. And many people here, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room? A lot of entrepreneurs that is really looking to make differences in their own walk. We're going to pause for this moment and begin to have some questions from the audience, and then we'll continue to see if we have